So, shall we start recording?
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Walk-ins call. Woo! Russia and whoever else is joining us. Okay, so I'm going to kind of speak slowly because we have someone who is simultaneously translating. So I'm going to do my best to still be very excited without talking fast. Okay, the Walk-ins call is a specialty class. It's one of 10 specialty classes that have been created by Shannon O'Hara, the creator of Talk to the Entities. Since you're on this call live, this counts as a prerequisite for the beginner's class, the 2-day beginner's class. How does it get better than that? Okay, so...
Excuse me, could you repeat the last sentence, please?
Yes. Since everybody is on this call live, this will count as a prerequisite to the 2-day beginner's class that I'll be doing in Moscow in June. Good? Okay. So these calls were created about maybe almost 4 years ago. And Shannon created them in a 3-part telephone series. And since then, she's allowed the Talk to the Entity facilitators like me to facilitate these calls in a 2 to 3 hour format. Okay, so all the materials that I'll be going through today are basically from those telecalls that Shannon did. I'm going to ask you to save your questions. You could write all your questions in the chat box, but I'm not going to address them until the end of the call because many of your questions will be answered as we go along. And if they're not answered, then I'll be happy to spend some time answering your questions at the end, okay? I want to give you the information, which is very important. All right, awesome. Okay, so the walk-in conversation is very tricky in that it challenges one's sense of identity and reality. Being willing to have this call, you have to be willing to have this call not make any sense whatsoever. None of this information is logical. It's not going to match the reality that you understand. So feeling confused throughout this call will be a normal part of this process. So don't worry about it if you're having a lot of head activity. Okay? Yeah. Cool. All right. Walk-ins is a term that Gary, the creator of Access Consciousness, Gary Douglas, came up with to indicate when a body has a being and then another being comes in to occupy that body. Okay? A walk-in can occur multiple times throughout a body's lifetime. Walk-ins are much more common than non-walk-ins. Having a being transition through the bodies is apparently part of the natural order of life on this planet. However, there's a huge lack of information and awareness in this area. In a conscious world, walk-ins would be something like this. So if the world was conscious, this is what walk-ins would look like. A being would have a body, and if that being didn't want a body anymore, okay, not necessarily wanting that body, not even necessarily wanting that body, but some change was needed, not just for that being and that body, but maybe for the whole universe.
I'm very sorry.
That's okay.
Matthew, could you repeat it, please, for me?
I'll say it again. Okay. So okay, so basically, if we live in a conscious world, the whole walk-in situation would happen much more smoothly. One being that has a body, when it was time for that being to go, it would leave, and then another being would come in. Okay? But because there's so much unconsciousness on planet Earth, the original being stays stuck. And that being is stuck because maybe it feels like it still has some unfinished business, like to take care of the mother or their father. Okay? Okay, cool. So let's talk about the physics of a walk-in. You have a being with a body, and for whatever reason and choices, another being walks into the body. It is always based on all beings involved in these choices. Okay? So all the beings that are involved, it's because of the choices that they're making. The original occupant, and then also the walk-in. You don't accidentally get a walk-in. I'm going to say that again. You don't accidentally get a walk-in. Okay? Just like you don't accidentally get possessed. And just like you don't accidentally have entities all around you. Walk-ins choose to be walk-ins, and the original occupant of the body chooses to have another being come in. Okay? Now I can hear questions rolling around in your heads already. Start writing them down, and I'm going to deal with them later, I promise. Okay? All right. I'm going to repeat that again. Walk-ins choose to be walk-ins, and the original occupant of the body chooses to have another being come in. That is always the case, and it's never accidental. So guess what that means? You don't get to be a victim anymore. I'll repeat that. You don't get to be a victim anymore. So my hope for you is that you feel a little more empowered by the end of this call. With all the tools in Access Consciousness are designed to empower you. They're designed to help you to be in the question and to create the life that you actually desire and not be a victim anymore. Okay? All right. So basically, probably now at this point, it was about maybe 13, 14 years ago, all right, when in Shannon's Talk to the Entities book, she talks about how she was a walk-in. Okay, she got knocked unconscious. I think she fell off her horse. Okay, and another being came in. Okay, at the time, she thought she had amnesia. When you hit your head and you forget like who you are and all that stuff. She couldn't even remember what access was. All right, and she couldn't remember what was real and true for her before that. But she also didn't understand the basic things of life. Like she didn't understand even what food was. Okay, so at first, like in this reality, they, the medical doctors would say you have brain damage. Okay, but she didn't have any brain damage. So she says when she walked in, she was having a session with Dane, and Dane, the co-creator of Access Consciousness, he brought her attention to the fact that she had walked in. In that moment, Dane was like, hello, who are you? And so both Shannon and Dane perceived Shannon, the original occupant, standing there, waiting to be acknowledged so she could finally leave. So the original Shannon said, Can I go now? She also had a request that the walk-in, the new being, take care of her mom. Okay? And she thought that was kind of strange, but it was very, very important to the original occupant. And that's why sometimes the original occupant won't leave, and there's many beings inside someone. And that's why some people's lives can be like very confused. They're one person 1 minute and another person the next. Okay? She also had a request. I'm sorry. When Shannon said yes, okay, so Shannon number 1 left. All right? And then Shannon number 1, basically what had happened was all of her family and friends. Now, this is very important. All of her family and friends were projecting at Shannon, who's now Shannon number 2, all the projections and expectations of the original Shannon number 1. So what happens is when you clear an original occupant, you must be aware that all your friends and family are still going to treat you as if you're the original occupant. So it becomes very, very, very important to do interesting point of view. They all have these points of view about me, because what will happen if you don't, you will begin to biomimetically mimic everybody's projections and expectations of you based on the original occupant, not the new walk-in. Does that make sense? Are you with me, Christina? Just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's really, 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 really important. So if you've had walk-ins cleared out, if you've had original occupants cleared, right? But you can't understand why you're still acting like the same old person or the same occupant, it's because you're biomimetically mimicking your friends and family's projections of the original occupant. Now, Shannon talks about how the transition it was designed to go smoothly. But because there's so much unconsciousness in this area and so much unconsciousness on planet Earth, the original being sticks around. They don't realize it's time for them to go. And this arrangement was decided long before the body was born. The beings got together somewhere else and they said, when I turn age 10, you come in and I'm going to leave. Okay? These were choices that were made by the beings before the body was even created. But what happens is that arrangement gets all screwed up because this is not a normal conversation. Nobody learns this in school. You definitely don't learn any of this in church, right? So it's like, how are we supposed to have consciousness in this area when it's not even a conversation that's discussed? So that's why the transition doesn't go smooth. Is because of all the unconsciousness around this area. Okay? So Shannon had to bring her consciousness to the fact that she was a new being and the occupant, the original occupant, was a separate being that actually had a different point of view than the new walk-in. Okay? So you're going to deal with walk-ins differently when you're dealing with yourself versus when you're dealing with someone else. Okay? You cannot make other people conscious. I'm going to repeat, Dimitri. I know you want to save the world. You can't make other people conscious. So a lot of the information here is going to be for all of you personally. Okay? And it's to teach you how to recognize how to deal with these for people who are really interested and really for your own lives. Okay? So, as I said, the original occupant hangs around, it stays around due to unconsciousness. That's the number one reason. The number two reason is the original occupant has a point of view, like Shannon's original occupant of, will you please take care of my mother? I'm not going to leave until I know you're going to take care of my mother, which becomes our mother, right? Okay, so it's very common for entities to have a simple point of view of, this is my house, I'm not leaving. Or I need to take care of my mother. I need to take care of my father. Or I own this, okay? When you have the point of view that you own something, what happens is it binds you and bonds you from having that original occupant being able to move on.
I'm very sorry. Could you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah, when you are, when something owns you, like a house or someone in a relationship, okay, you are binded, like binded and bonded. And it's very difficult for the original occupant to move on. Okay, so like I said before, there's a choice that gets made before the being's even embodied. So before you were born, for those of you who may be walk-ins, okay, before you were even born, you made a choice that you were gonna leave your body at a certain time and a new being was gonna come in. For what reason? It doesn't really matter, okay? But a lot of times it's for the greater good of humanity. All right? For a lot of times, the original being just wants to be born, live till it's 10 years old, and then it wants to move on. So the reason doesn't matter. It's just actually having the awareness that this is something that occurs. So now, a lot of times this happens, let's say, as a result of an accident, like a car accident, and someone gets knocked unconscious. Or maybe someone's in an abusive relationship and they get knocked unconscious. Or because of the abuse, they leave their body during the abuse, and as a result of checking out of their body, another being comes in. That's why a lot of times, for those of you who are walk-ins, cannot remember events that took place in your childhood. Okay? In those cases, it could be that you are a walk-in. That's why you don't remember things. Because the original being left and a new being came in. Okay? Now, when we do entity clearings, we always ask for the magnetic imprinting to leave as well as the being, right? So the magnetic imprinting is like your fingerprints. It's like energetic fingerprints of that being. And each being has its own magnetic imprinting. So what happens is after you clear occupants is the original occupant leaves. Sorry, the original occupant leaves, but what happens is the magnetic imprinting is still in the cells of the body. So the body itself has the memory of the original occupant. So it becomes very easy for you to still behave like the original occupant, even though you cleared it out. So very, very important to be aware of that the cells in your body actually have memory too. Okay? And that's why you want to make sure that you ask for the, after you clear the specific occupant, you want to ask for the magnetic imprinting to go too. Okay? All right, cool. This is also where, I don't know how long you've all been doing access for, but in the foundation, well, actually, in the bars, I don't even know. In the News Bar Manual, do they have biomimetic mimicry in there or no? BMM? No, I don't think so.
No.
That's in the foundation. All right. Anyway, in the foundation manual, you learn a body process called the biomimetic and the biometric mimicry. And that's basically where you mimic other people's physiological conditions. You also mimic the way they act too. Usually it's your family, it could be your friends, it could be your culture, okay? But we're gonna take it a step further. It could also be, you could biomimetically mimic your original occupant, and then it makes it very difficult for the walk-in, the new being, to create its own life because that being is biomimetically mimicking the original occupant. So that's another reason why we wanna run and receive the biomimetic and biometric mimicry body process, because not only does it clear everywhere you've mimicked your family, but if you're a walk-in, that could also help with clearing out everywhere you're still mimicking the original occupant. And for a lot of you, you may have had many occupants in there, not just one. You may have had 8, okay? So I know you guys are getting fried already because this is a new conversation for a lot of you. Hang in there. I said this is not going to make any sense. And when I first learned this stuff, I was like, this is all bullshit, okay? But when I was actually willing to look at it energetically, not logically, but energetically, it really, really started to make sense to me. Okay. And all I know is that when I would work on people, when I would facilitate people, when I would do the energy sessions that I do, and I was aware that this was a thing in the person I was facilitating's universe, we got great results when we cleared the original occupant. So at the end of the day, right, it's about creating the change in someone's reality that they've been asking for. So whether this makes sense to you or not is insignificant. Just know that it works, okay? Know that it works when you're dealing with a walking situation. Now, do we need to clear all the occupants all the time? No. You have to ask the person, is this relationship working for you? Just like a relationship you may be in real life, like with a person, a lover, right? Is the relationship working for you? Now, for some people, having other occupants in there, it works for them because there is this harmonious relationship that's occurring and it works for them. However, it's very rare. It's very rare because remember, all beings come in with their own points of view. Right? It's hard enough to have a relationship with one person. So can you imagine having, 8 beings inside of you to deal with? It's like, what the fuck? It's like, who the hell am I? Okay? So you have to be clear as to whether or not these relationships are working for you. If you are a facilitator, if someone likes their occupants, don't bother trying to clear them. Okay? It's their choice. All right, cool. So let's talk about memories. And I said earlier, it's the body also has memory too. But also what happens is the walk-in becomes aware of the family members and the friends' judgments. All the projections, all the expectations. Oh, there's Dimitri. That's my friend Dimitri, or that's my son Dimitri, and he's so smart, and he's good with computers, and, blah, blah, blah. But, what if there's a new walk-in in there who, wants to do access consciousness? But everybody's like, why would you want to do access consciousness? The Dimitri that I know loves computers. He's a scientist guy. He's very logical. He's very left brain. But then walk-in's like, no, fuck that. I'm an infinite being, and I want to do everything. I want to change the planet. Don't fucking project that shit at me, right? So Dimitri has to go, interesting point of view. They have that point of view about me because I'm not that same person. That's just like an example. And I'm not saying that's really what's showing up in Dimitri's life. That's like an example, okay? So, all right. So don't be thinking, oh, Dimitri's got all this shit going on, you know. Nah, I was just using you as an example. Yeah. So it's important to know that we underestimate the impact of people's projections at us. People are projecting things at us so intensely every day. Every fucking day. And every single one of you that is on this call are so aware and so sensitive to energies that are around you. You're gonna have to use the tool interesting point of view. They have that point of view about me. Because you're always going to be aware of people's thoughts and feelings and emotions about you all the fucking time. 24/7, 365 days out of the year. Okay? So don't use interesting point of view. That would be a bad idea. Don't return it all to sender with consciousness attached. That would be a bad idea. It might set you free, and it would not be good to be free. It would be bad. All right, cool. So now, what happens when you deal with a whole bunch of beings? Okay, this is where it gets a little tricky. You have to be aware of which entity has the say, and depending on the willingness and the consciousness of the beings that you're dealing with, it varies how you deal with them. So
could you repeat that, please? I'm very sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. So you have to be aware of which entity has the say. So if you're talking with someone, right, and you have the awareness that there may be original occupants. Now, it's not for you to decide if someone else has other occupants, okay? You have to ask them a question. They have to have that awareness themselves. So I don't care how psychic you are. I don't care if you see ghosts all the time hanging around people. That's not up to you to tell somebody else that information. But if you're going to help someone else, you could ask them a question so they can get the awareness themselves. Okay? So, what question do you ask? You ask them, say, are you a walk-in? Just like that. And they don't even have to know what you mean by that. And they'll say, what do you mean by that? And then you say back to them, don't worry about what I mean. Look at the energy of it. Are you a walk-in? And they may go, yeah. And then you ask them, how many of you are in there? What's the first number that pops? And they'll go, I don't know, 5? Okay, cool. Now, if they say something like, I get 20 or 50 or 100, that's a whole different conversation. You're dealing with someone who's a portal. Okay, we'll talk about that later. All right, but if they say like 5, 6, 7, 8, okay, cool. But what happens is when you're talking to someone and they have 5, 6, 7, or 8 beings in there, you have to figure out which being you're talking to. How do you know? Now, a lot of times what happens is, so it's easy to, let's just play with the number 8, okay? So let's say someone says, I have 8 beings in me, right? So just basically refer to them by their number, right? Because the first being was the one that came in, the one that was born, right? And let's say at the age of 10, another being came in, but that being decided to stay. So now you have 2 beings, right? You have number 1 and number 2. And then at the age of 20, number 1 and number 2 stays, and then another being comes in. Now you got 3 beings, right? And then by the time the person's 40 years old, let's say, or 50 years old, they may have 6, 7, 8 beings in there. So when you're talking with someone, or if this is for you yourself, you have to say, hey, Teresa, can you send my friend Jay Claus the link, the link? I guess the one that I sent, it's not working. Okay, so it's like you're consulting a committee, basically, and you need to decide which entity is the dominant, or which being is the dominant being. Now, just because that, so say number 4 is the dominant being. Does that mean number 4 stays? Not necessarily. Or let's say number 4 is the loudest, the most talkative. Does that mean it's in that person's best interest to have number 4 stay? No, not really. Your job is going to be to facilitate all of those beings and give them choice. So you need to decide, you need to say, okay, is there a dominant entity that actually desires to stay? Does one of you 8 beings actually desire to stay? Who would like to stay? And then you may get number 7 wants to stay. Now, in your foundation manual, and also even in the Talk to the Entities beginners class, it says, usually it's the last one that comes in is the one that stays. So you'll clear 1 through 7, and then number 8 will stay. But that's not always the case. Okay? Number 8 can change its mind. Number 8 could come in and say, what the fuck did I just choose? You know, I don't know if I like this choice. Okay? You change your mind all the time, don't you? So why do you think these, entities are any different than you and I? Okay? They're not. They're just like you and I. Okay? So, and we learn more about the different kinds of entities and all that stuff. So, but we're talking about walk-ins here for right now. So you have to, if you want to be like more advanced in this area, you can't automatically assume that the last one in is the one that stays. Now, that makes the most logical sense, right? Because, beings 1 through 7 decided to check out and another one came in. But keep in mind, there are entities around all the time that are looking for a host. They're looking for a body to grab onto. So if you're like checking out of your life, you're going to get a lot of these parasitic entities, if you will. And it may not even be the ones that you agreed with that would walk in at a particular time. Okay? But you checking out of your life is your choice. Okay? That's not being empowered. That's not being the boss entity of your own life. That's why it's very important to always be present. How do you be present in your own life? Is by always asking questions.
Could you please repeat the last sentence, please, again? Sorry.
Yeah. What did I say? Do you remember what I said, Dimitri?
I do. I just didn't have enough time to translate.
I forgot. I said you have to be aggressively present in your life. Otherwise, entities are going to be trying to jump on you like parasites. How do you be present in your life? You learn how to live in and as the question. And that's one of the 10 keys to freedom you learn. Oh, I went like this, like you, Dimitri. I was like, oh, that's one of the 10 keys. It's all these beautiful women on the call from Russia. I'm like, it's hard not to go like that. All right, never mind.
Yeah, 10 keys.
Oh, I digress. Okay, so anyway, I get distracted very easy by pretty women. All right, so let's see. Where am I? Okay, so you have to ask who's staying, who's leaving. That's it. It's that simple. Who's staying, who's leaving. Number 1, would you like to stay? Number 2, would you like to stay? Number 3, would you like to stay? How do you know? You have to follow your awareness and trust your awareness of light and heavy. Now, if you're working with someone else, they choose, not you. Okay? You don't tell somebody else that number 5 stays. That's up to them. So for all you superior assholes out there, Stop doing that shit. That disempowers people, okay? This is all about empowering people to access their knowing. Access consciousness is to access your own consciousness, okay? This is about empowering people to know what they know, but either forgotten or have been implanted an explant to be completely unconscious, which is basically planet Earth. Or not the Earth, but the people who live on planet Earth. Okay? So this is how the basic process works for most walk-ins, okay? You want to basically, there are some exceptions, but this is what you want to ask. Number one, are you a walk-in or do you have walk-ins? Okay? If it's a yes, or if you perceive the energy flare up at all, like a whoo, you know you're dealing with a walk-in. So you're really going to have to learn how to follow the energy, because everyone's going to be different depending on where they're at in this whole situation, because everybody's different, okay? Then number two, you want to ask, how many of you are there? When you ask the person, so if I ask Dimitri, how many of you are in there? What happens is it brings all the entities, all the occupants' attention to the fact that you are now paying attention to them, and you're paying attention to all of them. And that rarely happens in their reality. They're used to people with bodies ignoring them. Okay? So when you say, how many of you are in there? You're gonna get all their attention. You can change people's fucking lives with this stuff. Okay? It's like, I don't know, I get really excited. So, as I said earlier, if someone says I have 50, 60, 200, then you're dealing with someone who's more like a portal. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Number three, acknowledge the answer that the person gives you, and then you must ask, does any of you want to leave? Do any of you want to leave? A few of them will go yes, and the others may say no. Then what do you do? Okay, it's choice. So you could simply say, okay, you can go now, right? And a lot of them will just go, right? Or you're gonna need to do the entity clearing to assist them in moving on. Okay? What is the entity clearing? Okay, it's in your foundation manual, but for those of you who have not had a foundation class, I'm going to teach you how to clear entities. Now, when you're dealing with entities, okay, there's only three things you're going to only ever do. Clearing is one of them, which you're going to learn today. The other one is communicating with them, which you learn more in the communicating with entities class, and a little bit more in the beginners class. And then number three, receive. So clear, communicate, receive. You always want to ask, do I clear here? Do I need to have a conversation? Do I need to communicate here or acknowledge them? Right? We acknowledge them by saying, hey, how many of you are there? Who wants to stay? Who wants to go? You're communicating. You're acknowledging. And then the third one is receiving, because there may be entities hanging around because they promised you things in other lifetimes, and they're not going to leave until they're able to gift it to you. Or it's the other way around. They're not going to leave because you promised them something and you didn't gift it to them energetically. So they're just going to hang around you forever, okay? That's like more advanced stuff, and we'll get into that later. Or not later today, but in other classes. All right. So, and then number 4, okay? You say to them, you can go now, or, oh, I'm sorry, then okay, so this is how you do the entities. So with entities clearing, right? You're going to be dealing with who entities, what entities, and job entities. Who, what, and job. Now, you might say, oh my God, how am I going to know if it's a what entity? How am I going to know if it's a who entity or a job entity? Don't worry about it. You could do all 3 if you're not sure. It's not going to hurt the person. So once you and the person, once the person says, okay, I would like them all to go now. They're not really leaving. So what do? You do the entity clearing. Decide which one stays, which one goes. The foundation manual says usually it's the last one in that stays, but that's not always necessarily true in every instance, okay? So let's say number 5 wants to stay. So then you say, okay, entities 1 through 4, 6, and 8. You say truth. Who are all of you? Truth. Who you all before that? Truth. Who you all before that? This is the entity clearing. Truth. Who you all before that? Truth. Who you all before that? You keep saying it just like that until you feel a shift energetically. Now, what's a shift mean? It could show up for you any which way. You can get a chill up your spine. You may cough a little. You may go, whew, okay, cool. It could be like that, whatever. It's going to be different for every single one of you, right? And as soon as you feel that shift, then you say, who will you be in the future? Because what's happened is you're getting that being out of that stuck place in time. And then once they get that awareness and you loosen things up a little bit, then you could say, who will you be in the future? You're showing them that there's a possibility for something else from what they've been choosing. And then you basically do the same thing with the what and job entity. You say truth. What are you? What were you before that? 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 And it's like, woo, okay, what will you be in the future? Okay? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but hey, for some people it may show up like that. And then the job entities. Truth. What is your job? What's the value of holding on to this person's body? What was your job before that? 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 Whew. What will your job be in the future? Cool. And take all your magnetic imprinting with you. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Remember, you always want to tell them to take their magnetic imprinting with them. So now you're left with number 5. Now the person and then you want to ask that person, do you have more space or less space? There's no right or wrong answer, okay? Some people may say, I have more space. Why? Because those other beings left. Some people may say, I have less space. That's because number 5 was sort of hanging out here the whole time. And so once they got into the body, it feels like kind of like tighter or more confined. Okay, they're used to being out here where all the space is, but now they're finally like with the body. So it may feel like they have less space. That's why there's no right or wrong answer, but that's just to kind of give you information as to where that particular being was sort of residing or living.
Could you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. Some people may say they feel more space when the beings leave or less space. If they say there's less space, it's because they were living outside the body and they're finally present with the body, right? So it may feel like more confined.
Excuse me, what is confined?
Restricted.
Thanks.
Yeah, because they're not like floating around out here outside the body. Okay? So, now, when you come across a case where it's really difficult to get these beings to move on, it's because there are oaths and vows involved. Again, you learn how to clear oaths and vows. That's in your foundation manual, but I'm going to give you an example of what an oath and vow clearing is. So you basically say to all of them, all of your oaths, vows, swearings, fealties, communalties, commitments, swearings, binding and bonding contracts throughout time, space, dimensions, realities, lifetimes? Will you all revoke, recant, rescind, reclaim, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all of that? And then they'll say, hopefully they say yes. And you say right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Hey, Dr. Claus, be sure to mute yourself, please. Thank you. Okay, so if you find that it was difficult for them to move on, it's because there are oaths and vows involved, and they need to destroy and uncreate all of those. All right, now, you must let the person know that they're gonna feel weird. They're used to having all those other beings in their life, right? Even though their life was totally dysfunctional and it wasn't working for them, they're gonna feel very wonky, very weird. So you need to let them know that. Otherwise, what they're gonna do is try to bring those beings back. Okay? Because what we do, because of the unconsciousness, is we're not used to having space and ease in our lives. And we definitely don't like being uncomfortable. So many of us would rather stay stuck in our shit than to be uncomfortable for a little while to ultimately get the change that we actually been asking for. So what we do when we remove these occupants is we start pulling them back because that's what's comfortable, even though our lives were completely dysfunctional and not working out for us. So let them know they're gonna feel weird for a while. Remind them that people are going to be projecting at them based on the original occupants. So you have to use the tool, interesting point of view. These people have this point of view that that's who I am. Because it's not who I am. I am this new being now. I am this new walk-in now. Okay? And you have to return all of their points of view to center with consciousness attached. Otherwise, you will be biomimetically mimicking those original occupants. You know, that's one of the reasons why Gary has us run that process over 300 times, because we are biomimetically mimicking everything, not just mom and dad, not just our brothers and sisters, not just our grandparents. We're also biomimetically mimicking people's projections and expectations of us. Okay? And if you had other occupants in there that you finally cleared out, they don't know that you did that. You're certainly not going to tell your friends and family. They're going to think you're nuts. They're going to lock you up. Right? So you just have to be aware that that's going to happen. Okay, cool. So again, if there's still a sticking point and you've destroyed and uncreated all the oaths and vows and all that, then you basically have to just ask yourself, if this is you, you have to ask yourself, what do I love about these other entities being here? Because at the end of the day, if you're stuck, right, and you've been trying to change something over and over and over again, you have to start asking yourself what you actually love about it. Oops. I know all of you are like, what do you mean? I don't love struggling. I don't love all the drama and trauma in my life. I don't love being poor. Bullshit. Yes, you do, because you keep fucking choosing it. You're fucking lying to yourself. You like it, otherwise you wouldn't keep choosing it. And if you didn't like it, you would do whatever the fuck it took to change it. Even when it's uncomfortable to change it. Okay? Some of you would rather stay stuck in your shit, because at least your shit is, the smell is familiar. Okay? And you have to look at what the value of staying stuck in your shit is. Maybe you get more attention from your lover when you complain all the time. Maybe you get more attention from your boss. Maybe your parents give you more money when you cry. I don't know. Right? But at the end of the day, if it's not working for you, you have to be willing to be honest with yourself and look at things for what they are so that you could actually change it. All right. You could also ask, what question can I ask or be here that will give the energy and the information that will change this, right? So like within Access, right, asking a question really is an art. I mean, watching Gary create questions is one of the most brilliant things I've ever personally witnessed myself. And it's a skill, and it takes time and it takes practice. So for those of you who are new, you write down questions, put them on little Post-it notes and stick them on your refrigerator, in your car, or on the toilet, or wherever. And you'll get used to like learning how to ask questions. But if you don't know what question to ask, let's say, or maybe the ones you've memorized up till now, those questions don't really fit a specific thing you'd like to change, ask, what question can I ask here that will give me or give the energy and the information that will change this? And guess what? The universe is going to go, boom. Yeah, exactly. It's really cool. Okay, cool. So if you have a dominant occupant and you ask them, how many are there? How many of you are in there? Who wants to stay? What number are you? So you can identify who you're talking with. Remember, the one that's answering is not always necessarily the dominant one. It could just be the loudest one, right? It could just be the loud one in the group. But the loud one in the group just could be the loud one in the group. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a dominant entity and that one, desires to stay. It's just a loudmouth. So you have to ask. Okay, now we're going to get into some good stuff. So, I don't know how long some of you have been doing Access. I know there's some people on the call that's been doing Access for a while. Have you ever perceived all this amazing change? And like, I love Access so much. It's changing my life so much. And I'm so fried after a class and I could perceive the magic and all that. And then all of a sudden your life fucking goes boom, boom. And you're like, what the fuck happened? I want to kill myself. Access sucks. I spent all this money. What the hell's going on? It's not working. Have you ever done that? Yeah, okay. So, that's because one of two things, okay? You could have sleeper entities, or it could be demons. So, excuse me, sleeper entities are different than walk-ins. Walk-ins is where the beings agree at some stage to transition, but oftentimes there's not a lot of consciousness around at that time, so the beings get stuck. We've discussed that already. Sleeper entities are different. This is where you can have entities that were implanted in other lifetimes that are designed to wake up at a certain time. For example, if you start to get really conscious because of all the amazing tools you're receiving in Access Consciousness, so if you're getting really conscious, or they are designed to perform a particular action, like maybe to stop you. Okay? So you can have original occupants that are really unconscious. And once a lot of Access Consciousness is done, or any form of increasing consciousness, they seem to suddenly appear because they have basically woken up, just because there is more consciousness going on there. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that those specific sleeper entities are there to stop you. It just means that those sleeper entities that were implanted in there, that basically went to sleep, right? Don't you see people who are sleeping every day? Don't you see unconscious people every fucking day? So, and then all of a sudden they start waking up. The same thing can happen inside of you, that once you reach a certain level of consciousness, that sleeper entity wakes up, and then all of a sudden your life feels like it's going to hell. Well, that's because there's another being that was implanted in there. So the bottom line is you just ask. If none of those other ways of clearing the original occupant works, but you know there's another entity in there, ask, is this a sleeper entity? Especially the more you're doing access, okay? So just ask. Please don't always make it about entities either. You always want to ask questions. You always want to ask, who does this belong to, right? And ask, is this an entity? Is this a sleeper entity? Am I a walk-in, right? Ask questions. Does the earth require a contribution from me? You always want to ask questions, okay? But for today, we're talking about entities. We're talking about walk-ins, right? So it's sort of like a specialized thing. But you have to remember, consciousness includes everything, okay? So you can't put everything in boxes. All right. So the good news is sleeper entities are not hard to get rid of. If someone has a sleeper entity, which might be implanted or explanted, so you need to clear all the implants and the explants, basically, okay? So the implants are like where it's implanted in you. The explants, the explanted entities are sort of like where they're explanted in your energy bodies, okay? All right. So you want to clear all the implants and explants by potting and pocking, all the implants and explants of the sleeper entities, all right? Usually they have that because of something that they were involved in long ago that is no longer relevant to them now. So it's like that sleeper entity could have been implanted in there 2 million years ago, 2 trillion years ago. And, you know, it's not relevant for it to be around, but the only way it was going to wake up was when you, the new being, was choosing consciousness. And then it'll realize, oh, I don't really need to be here anymore. I'm free to go, okay? So that's what a lot of these clearings do, is they're designed to create more consciousness for everyone involved. So now listen to this. So if it was something that the being was involved in a long time ago and it's no longer relevant to them now. So for example, the most common way that shows up is with implanted or explanted demons that are designed to wake up when the person reaches a certain level of consciousness or, Dimitri, potency. Potency. Now, something I recently became aware of too. So let's say you're fucking being potent. You're rocking it, man. You're being everything you be, everything you truly be. You don't give a shit if people are judging you. You're creating your fucking life and all that shit, right? And then the demon's waking up and you're like, fuck you, demon. Go back to from whence you came. Oh, this is how you clear demons, by the way. Go back to from whence you came, never to return to me, my body, this reality again. And you're like, fuck you. You're not going to fuck with me, right? But what can the demons do? They start fucking with the people around you, right? And since you're a fixer, Dimitri, I'm using you as an example. Since you're a fixer, right? And let's say you see people you love struggling, you're like, fuck, is that demon fucking with my family? Is that demon fucking with my lover? Wow. And you're like, oh, that's how you get into me now, demon, you demon motherfucker. You're fucking with the people I love. I see. You're trying to go the back door now. Because you know I won't take shit from you, but now you're fucking with the people around me that I love, right? By making their lives miserable. So I'll be like, look, motherfucker, I got you. Return to from whence you came, never to return to my family, their bodies, this reality again. Return to from whence you came, never to return to my family, their bodies, this reality again. You got to get some fucking balls. I don't know if that translates in Russian. You got to get some fucking balls. You got to be like, fuck off. And it's going to be a warfare. It's going to be a warfare sometimes, but you got the fucking tools. You got the tools. You can't just say these clearings like a fucking mantra. Like, go back to from whence you came, never to return to me. Your demons are going to go, fuck you. Fuck you, you wimp. You got to be like, fuck off, man. Return to from whence you came. And you may have to do it 200 or 300 times. Because these demons are old, man. They're old and they are powerful. but because you've made them powerful. You've given them the fucking power. And I don't know if the unbirthing call that Gary did on December 31st, I don't know if that was that translated in Russian? Do you know? It was free. No? Yes? It was like a 30-minute call.
What is the name of the call?
Unbirthing.
Maybe no.
Okay. It's free, and I have no idea how to get it to you, but you all fucking need to listen to it. It was brilliant. So everywhere where you all keep renewing your contract with the demons that you've contracted with from other lifetimes, will you revoke, recant, rescind, reclaim, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all your oaths, vows, swearings, fealties, communities, commitments, binding and bonding contracts, and all those other lifetimes, space, dimensions, and realities? Whew. Right and wrong, good and bad, pound and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay, cool. I'm getting excited. Christina, you're doing amazing. This is not easy. I could not do it. I don't even know if I could translate someone from English to English. So you're doing amazing. I'm really fucking impressed. This is awesome. All right. And then like when I see that like you're in the zone and you're all getting excited, then I get excited. Dimitri's getting excited. Teresa's getting excited. Then I could perceive people on the call being like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? You know, anyway. And then it makes me even more excited because I love being judged now, where before I didn't like being judged. How does it get better than that? Yeah, boobies and boobies and testicles. Okay, so where am I? So again, I'm going to repeat. When you were becoming more conscious, there could be implanted and explanted demons that are designed to wake up when you reach a certain level of consciousness or potency. Or you can have a really unconscious entity attached to you. And there's lots of ways that this can occur. Okay. And it's all a lot of it's based on choices and things that happened in other lifetimes. Okay. You may have been someone who lived in an opium den, right?
Excuse me, could you repeat that?
Yeah, you may have been someone who lived in an opium.
Вы могли быть кем-то, допустим, раньше быть опиумным наркоманом в прошлой жизни.
She got it? Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought she was asking Dimitri for help. So, and you carry all that stuff with you into these lifetimes, okay? That's really the point of that. So, always get clear. Recognize what the situation is. I'll never forget when I first started to learn the bars, and once I really made a commitment of doing bars trades and really receiving, I'll never forget my bones started vibrating, literally in my legs, and they were humming too. They were going, ooh, and literally I felt ghosts leaving my body. Like it went, and I was like, whoa. Fuck. Why? What are the bars designed to do? Yes, to help you learn how to receive, but they're designed to help you to become more conscious. They're designed to help you to access consciousness. So knowing what I know now, I knew that entities were leaving my body, but I didn't really know why or anything like that. Knowing what I know now, a lot of them were waking up. They were waking up and they knew they didn't have to stay around anymore. It was awesome. And my life has gotten better and better and better and better and better. Now, it doesn't mean that I haven't had moments where I've been extremely uncomfortable. I felt like my life was falling apart and all that stuff. Because usually you'll feel like your life is falling apart when you get really, 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 really vulnerable with yourself. When you're willing to look at everything about you and really truly be vulnerable and not make excuses for why you're an asshole or why you may be abusive or why you may not choose more, when you're willing to actually fucking look at shit and be vulnerable, that's when your life will change. Now, it's not comfortable. It is not comfortable. And that's why, like, a lot of people leave Access is because they get to that point where it's like, it's time for them to really look at the thing that's been stopping them, or the many things that have been stopping them. And it's so fucking uncomfortable, and they almost feel like they're gonna die if they look at it. And my invitation to you is, so what if you die? Because what if you are dying, but to actually, it's like the old you is dying. It's the limitations that are dying, so that you, the being, could be everything that you desire to be. All right. If you hear voices in your head, it's always entities. It's simple, okay? And if you take these entity classes, you're gonna learn how to have this all work for you instead of against you. It's your choice. When you hear the answer no in your head, that's an entity. It may not be a walk-in though, okay? So don't think it's a walk-in, okay? You could have entities around you. That's a different conversation, right? And then you have walk-ins too, right? So we're talking about different things, all right? So you always want to ask, is this a walk-in that's telling me no? Is this a walk-in that's saying you're a loser? All right, you're a failure. Is it a walk-in? Light, heavy? No, it's not a walk-in. Is it an entity? No, it's not an entity. Oh, is it a demon? Oh, yes, it's a demon. Oh, has this demon woken up because I've reached a certain level of consciousness and potency? Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Okay, motherfucker, I don't need you anymore. I don't need you. I don't require you anymore, demon. Go back to from whence you came, never to return to me, my body, this reality again. Go back to from whence you came, never to return to me, my body, this reality again. Go back to from whence you came, never to return to me, my body, this reality again. You keep saying it and saying it and saying it until the energy shifts. Okay? If you hear no, you want to ask, do you belong to me? Like, again, remember how I used the example before? Maybe you're a demon, but it's fucking with your family because you're not putting up with the shit, but the demon hasn't really gone. So it decides to like go fuck with like your brother, your sister, your mother, father, your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, husband, wife, right? So you can say, okay, is that my demon that's fucking with my family, right? So you got to just ask, does this demon belong to me or someone else? Do I clear you, communicate with you, or receive? Not from a demon, but like if it's entities, don't get confused, okay? Demons you always want to fucking get rid of, unless you like it. Unless you love being demon possessed, have fun with that. That's cool. Again, it's all about choice. Personally, demons don't work for me. They've had me by my balls my entire life up until about probably 5 or 6 years ago. Okay? So demons don't necessarily work for me anymore personally. So again, it's your choice. I won't judge you if you like your demons. But if you come to me for a session and you tell me you want to fucking be free of shit, then don't be fucking holding on to your demons, all right? Because that makes my job harder, all right? I'm just telling you. If you want to keep your demons, do a session with someone else. Nah, I'm only kidding. I'm not only kidding. I actually mean it, but I don't mean it. You could still come and do a session. You may not get the results you want because you like your fucking demons. All right. Anyway. What else? Where are we? Oh, one of the greatest mistakes that people make is that they think all entities need to be cleared. That is absolutely not so. You need certain entities in order to perform the balance of life. So don't always try to clear entities, okay? Don't always try to clear entities. That's why I said you're gonna do 3 things with entities. 3, clear, communicate, receive. And since I've learned the entity tools and really started looking at it, I create with entities now. And every time I go to another country, I talk to the ancestors there. I talk to the spirits of the earth there. And I honor the ancestors, actually. And I have gratitude for coming in there because I know a lot of them are going to want to come to my class. But unfortunately, they don't have bodies, so they can't give me money. So I say to them, I'm like, thank you for letting me come to your land. You're more than welcome to come to class, but you need to bring people with bodies and, you know, with money in hand. But you're more than welcome to enjoy the facilitation if you're going to hang around. But you need to bring people with money in hand, right? Because I got to feed my kids. So it's like, you know, you can create with entities, all right? They're not always there to plague you. You don't want to always clear them, okay? That's why you always want to ask questions. Do I clear here, communicate, or receive? All right. This is great. Entities are part of our world. They're part of our world. They're supposed to be here. And that is the there's a varying mass of different types of entities. It's not just entities one way, it's entities all different ways. Okay? Some people work better with other entities. They all work together, and that's not wrong. But if we were in a conscious world, now think about this. I want you to tap into the energy of this. If we were all conscious, if we lived in a conscious world, we would all have dynamic relationships with other entities. So people already do. There are people out there that do. Shannon does, okay? But she's actually conscious of it now. Other people have these relationships with other entities, but they're not even conscious of it. Or they are, but they feel wrong about it because they're not, it's like they're sort of like not really developing their capacities with it. In a lot of instances, they're being plagued by it.
Excuse me, could you repeat the last?
Yeah, like in some instances, they're being plagued or they're being affected in a negative way by having these dynamic relationships with entities. So she says, in the future of consciousness, entities will be seen as a valued, honored contribution to the world, and we will actually take counsel with them. I have meetings with my entities all the time. I actually have office hours. My alarm goes off in my phone 3 days a week, and I for 5 to 6 minutes, maybe sometimes 8 minutes, I talk to entities. And it's different every time. Some I clear, sometimes I'm clearing, sometimes I'm just acknowledging, sometimes I'm talking to my teammates, sometimes I'm clearing demons, sometimes I'm doing a downloading exercise where I'm actually processing hundreds and thousands of them. Okay? Sometimes I'm asking them, hey, I'm going to Russia. What would it take to, change all of their reality and give people the magic that they're actually looking for? I ask them for help. Everything that brings up or lets down when you destroy and uncreate all of that, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pound, pock, all nine shorts, boys, mountains. Because I know many religions say that that's taboo, especially in like the Judeo-Christian religions, right? If you're asking spirit to help you that's outside of the spirit of that particular church, then you're inviting demons. Well, I have found that that's not true. Okay? I have found that it's not true at all. So that's just, my point of view. Anyway, so, okay, what else? What time is it? Okay, let's see. What else do I want to say? Let's do an exercise. So, for all of you who believe you may be walk-ins, and don't worry about it if you don't think you are, it's totally fine, but at least you'll have, the way to do this for someone else. So, truth, are you willing to let them go? So for those of you who are willing to let go of your other occupants, your original occupants? Will you destroy your relationships with them throughout all time, all space, all dimensions, and all realities? Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Now tell them goodbye. And then take all your magnetic imprinting with you. Truth, who are all of you? Who you all before that? 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 And who will you be in the future? You can all go now. And we're going to destroy and uncreate all the magnetic imprinting, right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. And for those of you who have walk-ins that are more stubborn or refuse to let go, that becomes a process for you now. What's the value of having this being or beings in your life? Does it work for you? If it does, that's okay. If it doesn't, then you need to POD and POC yourself into more choice. And for all of those who have demons, return to from whence they came, never to return to you, your body, this reality again. Return to from whence you came, never to return to you, your body, this reality again. Return to from whence you came, never to return to you, their body, this reality again. Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Cool. So, questions?
Anthony, can you say some words about your teammates?
Yeah. Well, what would you like to know? What do you know about the teammates, Dimitri? What have you learned?
It is the entities that contribute me.
Я извиняюсь, Дима, teammates как переводится правильно?
Команда сущности.
Команда сущности.
Моя команда сущности, да. They not limit me, they contribute me. On the sessions, on the symphonies, blah, blah, blah.
Now, do they do things for you, or do they only do things when you ask them to help?
They do things with me.
With you.
When I ask, yeah.
Exactly. Perfect.
They give me my choice, not their.
Exactly.
It's no violence between us.
Exactly.
Yeah. What will I get? What do I know?
Yeah. So what would it take for all of you to start acknowledging your teammates? They've been waiting for you. Yeah. And we learned a teammate exercise in the beginner's class. Yeah. Cool. Good question. So who has questions? I can't believe nobody's got questions. That's crazy.
Okay. I have one more.
You promise to tell something about portals, but you say that you will speak about it later, yes?
I did. I promised. Okay. So a portal is sort of like a doorway between one dimension and another. Okay? It's like an energetic doorway from one dimension to another. Now, almost anything can be a portal. Okay? So people can be portals, like your body can be a portal, where basically beings are coming in and out of it on a regular basis. A picture can be a portal. Furniture can be a portal, like a closet can be a portal. A mirror can be a portal. Okay? Now, in certain places on our planet, Earth, there are actually naturally occurring portals, which are not necessarily the same thing. It's not like necessarily where beings are coming in and out of, but just because of the way like the magnetic pole is and like the energy, like we call them vortexes, not the vortexing that you have like in an access class where like parts of your body get really cold and you're tapping into the God source. But it's more like the vortexes they're referring to are really portals that they're referring to, that are the natural sort of biology of the earth itself, okay? But the portals that we're referring to is where there's an energetic doorway between one dimension and another, and there are beings that are moving in and out of it. So when you have someone, when you ask someone, when you say how many beings are in there, and you get a number, if they give you a number like 50, 60, or 100, now you're dealing with a portal situation. Now, Shannon basically said that she has not met anyone where being a portal is a contribution to their life. She basically has said that she's like, you know, most people don't know how to handle being a portal. So, however, you have to be willing to, if you are a portal, okay, that person has to be willing to close that portal and shut that portal. And it's not necessarily always easy to close portals. Why? Even if you choose to. And it's because there are what you call governance and enforcer entities that have a job of keeping the portal open. Okay? So they may, remember, entities have choice too. So they may be like, fuck you. I like keeping the portal open. That's my job. You know what I mean? And, you know, so this is something where you may have to do it a bunch of times. This may be something where you communicate to these you have to address them as such, as you have to say to all the governance and enforcer entities keeping this portal open, what is your job? What was your job before that? Give them choice to go get another job, and just tell them that you're not interested in being a portal for them anymore. If it happens to be you and your body. I know a lot of times I really like to buy antique furniture. So a lot of times, sometimes it could be a portal, or sometimes there's lots of entities on the furniture. So I'll just use the tools to either close the portal or clear the entities, right? You can't clear the entities coming in and out of a portal. It's impossible. So because it's infinite, right? You'll be clearing all day long. So you have to close the portal, basically. So a lot of times people will close it and then they reopen it, and they close it and they reopen it, and they close it and reopen it. So what you have to do, if that's you or someone you're working with, you got to ask them, what's the value of keeping this portal open? And, is it actually working for you in your life anymore? Okay. Now, I have felt like certain spots on people's bodies, I'm like, wow, maybe not like their whole body, but like a particular spot. Because they had I don't even remember, I don't remember the context of the conversation. So it was one of those questions that I asked spontaneously, in the moment, right? Because it was so non-linear and it wasn't logical. So I don't remember what was happening. All I know is I got an awareness. I asked them a question, and what we both got to was that it was a certain part of their body was the portal. It wasn't the whole body, it was just one part. And we closed it, and they no longer had symptoms in that area. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember what happened before. I don't even remember what happened after, other than the fact that they got great results. So at the end of the day, that's all I care about, is that people are, happy with the results that they get. So does that help?
Yes. Thank you.
Cool. Who else has questions?
Можно вопрос?
Yes.
В идеале, как в человеке должно сочетаться один единственный букин, сущность, или как? Я что-то прослушала, вылетела в этот момент.
How do the two walkings or two entities in one body can live in harmony together? How it happens?
It's rare. It usually doesn't happen. However, I'll give you an example.
Anthony, she asked about what is better, the one entity in the body or the some entities in one body. Да, правильно я тебя понял?
Ну, наверное, да.
Ну да. Ну ты спросила, что лучше, одна сущность в теле или несколько?
Да.
Yeah. What's better in one body?
It's not about, it's not about better. It's just really about choice and what works for that person. So I'll give you an example. I had a patient of mine when I was a chiropractor, and she had multiple personality disorder. And she was molested when she was a little girl.
Excuse me, what happened to her?
She was molested, like, you know, an adult, you know, played with her body inappropriately.
Don't get what you're saying.
Okay, like, Dimitri, can you help me here?
Изнасилование, molest.
В общем, да, мужчина взрослый как бы нехорошо поиграл с ее телом, он сказал.
Yeah. So she created all these other beings inside her universe, okay? And I asked her, I said, does it work for you to have them all there? And she goes, yes, I like having all these beings here. We all work well together. And, you know, that wasn't up to me to have them leave because her life was actually functioning really, really well and at a relatively high level. So in that particular instance, it worked for her to have all these entities inside of her universe. But most of the time, it typically doesn't work in someone's favor. But so you really just have to ask, what will create more for you, having these beings there or not? Like there may be 8 beings in there, and that person may discover that they want to keep 3 out of the 8, and that's their choice. So it comes down to choice. There is really no better or right or wrong. It's just choice.
Yeah, sometimes we buy the point of view about our weakness, and we call the demons or entities to defend ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Who else?
Как можно использовать сущности?
How can we use the entities?
Well, the first thing I would do, if this is new for you, the first thing that I would do is I would actually just invite your teammates to come play in your life. Start there. Okay, that's number one. And is she there or is she frozen?
Дима, ты меня слышишь? Я правильно перевела? Пригласить команду сущностей в свою жизнь?
Да, и поработать с ними, да.
И поработать с ними.
Yeah, and the way that I use them is, the way, did you already translate the first part there, Christina? Yeah, cool. So the way that I use them too, you know, I started getting more in touch with my teammates, number one. The other way is during my office hours. Now, I set up my office hours just like a business. And I tell them, you can't bother me at night when I'm sleeping. You can come to me during my office hours. And I run it just like a business. And I tell them, you need to create money in my life if I'm going to spend time with you like a business. And ever since I started doing that, more money's been showing up in my world. Exponentially.
And if they choose to bother you at night?
Then I have to be really firm with them, and I have to say, look, this isn't the deal. The deal is you come during my office hours. But, you know, every once in a while, you're going to have very persistent entities, and you may have to deal with it right then and there. But usually it's quick. Most of the time, it's quick. There was only one time where I needed to be so present. It was like about 40 minutes of my time. But that was because I was personally struggling. I was like really like depressed, but none of it was mine. And I had to get really present with who does this belong to. And that was like a year and a half ago. And I have not had that feeling or emotion since. Not to that level of intensity. And it was great. And it showed me so much and gave me so much awareness. So I'm in so much gratitude because these entities want to show you things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of Access, the beginning parts of Access was, you know, Gary channeled Rasputin. But he was also getting information from these other beings that was giving Rasputin information that was giving Gary the information. So it was like, you know, you use them by inviting them into your life, but you have to create deal and delivers with them too, where it works for you and it works for them.
It's always a conversation, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Inga have a question. She's asking about how can we close the portal?
You have to ask the governance and enforcer entities, you got to clear them. So basically you have to say to all the governance and enforcer entities, you know, what is your job? What was your job before you had the, you know, job was to keep the portal open? What was your job before that? What was your job before that? What was your job before that? What's the value of keeping the portal open? Your job is done now. You may be relieved of your job, whatever you want to say. You know, right and wrong, good and bad. What will your job be in the future? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. You know, and you may have to do that for a while, depending. Now, a lot of these, keep in mind, these entities that are moving in and out of the portal, they're going to try to convince you to keep the portal open. Not just the governance and enforcer entities, their job is to keep it open, right? But the entities that are coming in and out of there, they're going to try to convince you to keep it open. So just know it's not, Shannon even says closing portals is not easy. It's not an easy thing. It could take a while, you know, or you may close it and then it opens up temporarily. You know, so she says it's typically a challenge for most people, but that's what you got to do. And you have to be willing. If you're someone who's a portal, you have to be willing to walk away from it. And she finds that most people end up reopening it because they're not willing to be different for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's most difficult in the sessions about entities, the portals.
Yeah.
And one more question about how can we define the leader of the walk-ins?
How can we define what?
The leader, the most powerful or the most present walk-in in the body.
Just ask which one of you is the most dominant entity. And if it's easy for you, you know, you can use the numbers, whatever, you know, works for you. You know, some of you may get colors. Some of you may get, you know, for me, I like using the numbers. I'm like, okay, which one of you is the most dominant entity? You ask them. And then, you know, if there's 5, 4 of them will go back and then the one will come forward and they'll say, number 3. You know what I mean? But it may show up for each and every one of you very differently, right? You may see 5 different colors that represent the different beings. I don't know. So yellow comes forward. So, and then you even ask, are you the dominant entity? Yes or no? And then you follow your awareness. It's just really all about asking and trusting your knowing. And again, a lot of this is practice. But if there's anything that I can help you with is always go with the very first awareness you get. The very first, boom, that shows up. That's it. Everything else that follows afterwards, don't pay attention to that. That's your thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and have fun with it. Like, play with this, you guys, because the more that you play with it, the stronger your capacities with it will get. And here's the key to that. You must acknowledge every time you get an awareness. Acknowledge it so that your capacities get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. The minute you say, oh, that was my imagination, you will weaken your capacities in this area.
Yeah, and get less vital about the entities.
Yeah.
Anthony, may I ask a question? Am I right to understand that the only reason that original occupants may return back is when you walk in by mimicry previous original occupants?
Well,
for example, may I ask? For example, I had original occupants or walking. I don't know what it was exactly, and I have a session, and original occupants went away, and it was great. It was fantastic. I felt so many lightness. And I feel that much space inside me. And then when after 6 months, the situation returned back the same it was 6 months before. And I had another session, and during this session, I understand that just this entity or just original occupants or walk-in returned back to me.
Okay, so did it return back to you, or did you start biomimetically mimicking people's projections and expectations of the original occupant? So it feels like the occupant came back.
So maybe it wasn't returned back.
Well, I'm asking you, did it return back, or did you start to biomimetically mimicking everybody's projections and expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections of the original occupant? And now it feels like, and over the time, over 6 months, over 6 months of you being aware of everybody's projections of the original occupant, you started to biomimetically mimic the original occupant as if the being is already there. You tell me, what do you know? Did the original occupant come back, or did you learn how to biomimetically mimic it based on everybody else's projections of it? What's like?
I bought biomimetic mimicry.
Yeah, cool. So
I don't know how it's possible.
Well, it's called awareness. You're aware of people's projections and expectations, and and being humanoid, being an aware person, you're gonna mimic things that you're aware of. But that's why you have to return those projections to sender with consciousness attached. That's why you have to say, interesting point of view. They have those points of view about me as the original occupant. Otherwise, you will start to mimic that original occupant, and it will feel like that being came back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Listen to this call like 5 more times. Or I should say, don't listen to the call 5 more times.
I will not listen to this call 5 more.
Yeah, because you'll hear, especially in the beginning of the conversation, about how Shannon even talks about this in her book, how it happened to her. Everybody was projecting Shannon number 1 at her. So she had to keep saying, interesting point of view. They have that point of view that I'm still Shannon number 1. Otherwise, you'll biomimetically mimic the original occupant. So just be aware of that. It's not a big deal, you know? And if it is the original occupant, tell it to go again. Just do what you need to do to have it go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, cool. You can't get it wrong. You know what I mean? So it's one or the other. Either you brought the occupant back, or you're biomimetically mimicking everybody's projections and expectations and separations and judgments and rejections of you. You're biomimetically mimicking that based on the original occupant.
Yes, but and I want to say that it's a sensation that this feeling or this previous occupant prevent you from go forward in your work.
Yeah, well, if you're biomimically mimicking the original occupant, you're going to mimic the same choices that it made before.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so receive BMM and just be aware that you're biomimetically mimicking the original occupant. So you may want to run elimination and eradication and dissipation of occupant number one's pains, pathways, realities, and insanities. Right and wrong, good and bad, pon and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Like a body process or the verbal
Yeah,
process?
but just say it verbally if you're just by yourself.
Okay. It's okay.
Does that help?
This helped a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, we have another question.
Yes.
I don't remember from who. From Rina. What if you clear all the entities or you close all portals, blah, 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 and after, for example, 1 month, you get some entities again, and how can we kick them out forever? The entities, demons, blah, blah, blah.
Well, no, okay. First of all, you can't clear all entities. I said that before. They live amongst us. So the idea of clearing all entities is insane. It's not going to happen. And Shannon, I've even heard Shannon say that there's a 4-to-1 ratio. There's 4 people in the spirit realm versus us with a body, right? So this is not about clearing all entities all the time. What this is about is learning how to live in communion with the spirit world, right? And going back to what I said earlier, you need to ask, do I clear them, communicate with them, or receive from them? Because what if there are entities that are there that want to contribute to you, but you're telling them to leave? That's like finding the love of your life, and they want to hold you and kiss you in all the ways you used to fantasize, and then when they finally show up in your life, you're like, no, get away from me. Okay? So you don't want to clear all entities. Now, demons, that's a different conversation, okay? If you're understanding that it's the same demon, then it's an oath and vow situation where you have to clear the oaths and vows. If that's not working, then you have to then ask yourself, and this is where you have to be honest with yourself. You have to start asking yourself, what do I like about having these demons around? Because remember, you are not a victim. You are not less powerful than these beings. You have the point of view that you are, because that's what we're taught. We're taught that beings in the spirit world are more powerful than we are. What if that's the biggest misconception that exists? Okay, so hopefully that helps, but these tools are designed so that you can live in communion. So what if you can't clear all demons? But what if you can still live your life and not be at the effect of the demons that may be around, where they're not affecting your life? Consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. That includes demons. So demons could be around, they just don't have to affect you in a negative way. And that's something that you have to develop over time, your skills and capacities, so you can become stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay? So get over the point of view that you're going to clear them all. This is about being in communion with everything. And not at the effect of demons, because demons have no interest in being in communion with you. They want to try to stop you. They want to try to stop consciousness, right? So, but you don't have to be at the effect of demons. Okay? And remember, your friends and family like their demons. So when they come around you, their demons are going to be there too. But guess what? You could be the bigger demon bitch from hell. You outcreate the fucking demon. Cool. Yeah. All right. So,
we have another questions.
okay. Last question.
Last
Можно
question.
еще вопрос? Как увеличить армию сущностей, которые служат, ну, такие, во благо? И как с ними, ну, есть ли какой-то... Да, я лентяйка, я хочу, чтобы, знаешь, как в Золушке все работало. И не заключаем ли мы с ними контракты, вот. Ну, то есть, чем их можно приманить, как их
Заключаем, конечно.
вложить, я не знаю.
The Irina wants to be a queen of entities. She wants an army or the slave of entities. And she wants them that they will jump for her.
So what? They'll jump on her?
Yeah.
What do you mean? She wants to have an orgy?
No. She wants to their power, their contribution, money from them or through them.
Yeah.
Etc.
So use the tools.
Какие инструменты? Как с ними,
Which tools?
All of them.
как с ними говорить?
How can I speak with them?
Practice.
Чтобы не становиться в зависимость от этого.
Have
Do not-
office hours.
Do not affect it from them.
I just told you for the last 90 minutes, 2 hours. Listen to this call 5 times. Have you taken the beginner's class yet?
Нет.
Get your ass in the class, girlfriend. You got to learn this stuff. You're looking
Я
for the
уже
easy way.
заблокировала.
She's looking for the easy way. She just wants like a lightning bolt to hit her from the sky. And then all of a sudden she has these magical powers of learning how to communicate with the spirit world.
Почему бы и да?
These tools will empower you to give you everything that you desire. But you have to learn how to use them and be willing to use them.
Да, вы-
Да.
She's like, fuck, I want it easier and faster.
And the last question about doing the session. The 2 people asked about when you facilitate someone, and you get their demons or entities in your body. What should they do with it? Probably they get the BMM or the client's entities, probably.
Okay, first of all, the only way that would happen is if you make yourself less powerful than them. Say that to them. Okay. Oh, okay. Did she hear that? Or he hear that? Okay, good. That's number 1. Number 2, you also have the point of view that they are more powerful than you, so therefore you can get stuck with them. So interesting point of view. You have that point of view that you are less powerful than those demons. Okay. Number 3, if you are aware that they get in your body or something like that, then you use the tools. You use the clearing tool. Go back to from whence you came, never to return to me, my body, this reality again. Go back to from whence you came, never to return to me, my body, this reality again. Now that's for a demon. If you get that their entities like jumped onto you, into your body or something like that, then you go, truth, who are all of you? Truth, who are you before that? Truth, who are you before that? Truth, who are you before that? Truth, who will you be in the future? If you get that, it was a what entity that jumped on you from them? Truth, what are you? Truth, what were you before that? Truth, what were you before that? Truth, what were you before that? Until it should. You use the tools. Use the tools. Use the tools. Use the fucking tools. It's easier than you're all making it. It's much easier than you're making it, but you have to be willing to practice using the tools. And it's actually very simple. You're either going to clear them, communicate, or receive. That's it. You clear them by who are you, what are you, and job. And then, or if it's a demon, return to from whence you came, never return to me, my body, this reality again. You learn how to communicate with them and receive from them. In the beginner's class is sort of like the beginning of that. But then the advanced class with Shannon, you really learn how to receive from entities. Okay, there's no shortcuts. And then once you learn the information, you got to be willing to use the tools and practice. You got to fucking practice. And I was sort of forced to practice because I learned the tools, but I only learned this initially so my ASB sessions, my energetic sessions could get stronger, and my facilitation and foundation and body classes can be stronger. That was the only reason why I initially learned this stuff. And then as I started doing it, I was like, fuck, oh my God. Like, because things were showing up in my body. Things were showing up in my mind, and I couldn't get past it using the other tools. And I'm like, okay, is this an entity? Is this entities? Is this more than one? I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm like, okay, what do I know? What tools do I know? And I got that I needed to start setting up office hours. So I did. And then I started clearing entities, but then I started communicating with them. And then I even started receiving from them. And guess what? All the shit in my body, all the crazy thoughts in my brain, they went away. They went away. You gotta fucking use this in your life so you can get more awareness and your consciousness can grow even more and get stronger. You can't do this half-assed. You can't. Not if you want to have an army of entities working for you, like that lady said. There's very few people in the world. Keep in mind, most people that I've ever come across that see ghosts and talk to dead people and all that shit, a lot of those people are the sickest people I've ever met in my life. They're either very physically sick or they're mentally sick, and their life is not working out for them at all. At all. Shannon said that she would either be dead right now or in a mental institution if she didn't have these tools. Because they would have labeled her as a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yeah, true story.
Yeah. So gotta fucking practice and take these classes. It doesn't matter if you take them with me, right? You're on this call with me, but I invite you to take it with whatever facilitator out there in the world that's light for you to take the class with. But these tools are phenomenal. They're fucking phenomenal. They will empower you.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Can you say some words about the Talk to the Entities class in June in Moscow?
I think I just did. I mean, it's like, it's the beginning of, God, it's the beginning of opening you up to a whole different world. And it's for the people who see ghosts, have these capacities, but they're like sort of always at the effect of these capacities. Having these tools will change your life so you could actually use your capacities to your advantage, so that you're not sick all the time, so that you're not depressed all the time, so that your money flows change. But this is also not just for those people. It's also for people like me I don't see ghosts. I perceive them. I work with bodies. That's my thing. That's my gift and capacity. I work with energy. And guess what? Learning these entity tools will help you in that area too. It's amazing all the different universes that have opened up to me since I've studied Talk to the Entities. Being able to be in communion with my teammates, being able to be in communion with the beings of light, being able to embody and engage in the elementals with ease. It's all connected and related to help me to be as powerful and potent that I can be. So talk to the entities beginning is like the beginning of looking at how to deal with the spirit world. So come and play.
Окей, just pop up. Если вам интересно поработать, как взаимодействовать с сущностями, общаться, мы можем сделать с Энтони спецзвонок, разговор с сущностями. Это еще один спецзвонок, который вот этих из трех. Чистить, общаться и принимать. Вот есть специальный звонок общаться. Он прекрасный. I just pop up in my sensation about the communication with entities call.
Oh, yeah.
If they are interesting, we can create it.
Yeah.
I was on this call. It was awesome.
Dude, love you guys. Thank you for being on here. Thank you for your vulnerability and your amazing questions.
Thank you.
All right. Ciao, ciao. Thank you, Christina. You're amazing.
Thank you, Matthew.
Bye-bye.